So hi, once again we are in Cognity Lab and this is the 10th tutorial of how to learn Python from the basic installation to advanced. So in this video we are going to learn what is OOPS, means what is object oriented programming in Python. So Python is object oriented programming, and we have also C++, Java. They are also object oriented programming, not purely, but they have also support polymorphism and inheritance and threading, multi-threading. This is a concept of OOPS, means object oriented programming. So let's see what is object oriented programming in Python. And before going to start it, I have to thank you to all of you, because I gained 100 subscriber in only 11 days, and that's a lot for me, and that is a little step for me in YouTube. And thank you so much for giving me a lot of love. I can't imagine that in 11 days I got so many views, I got so many messages and all of that. So thank you for giving me a lot of love, and I try to make this type of videos, and I try to improve my qualities of my videos as I can. So thank you so much, and if you're new here, so don't forget to subscribe, share and like, and thank you so much once again, and let's start it.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me, even if it's fake, 'cause I don't fucking.
So now let's understand what is object oriented programming. So in real life, everything that we have is an object. So let's think that in real life we have to make a keyboard for a computer, and for that we have to take some material or matter, and that will be plastic, and we have to make a design for that to give the shape to that material or to that matter and to make that object. And so for that we need two things: one is design, second in matter or material, and then we have to mix those and we have to make that object that we call keyboard in real life. So now same thing will be applicable for Python programming. So object oriented programming means the all the things that we can write, all the things that we can do, all the things is type of a object. So in Python, what you can type, any variable, any number, anything, any value, all the things are taking as a object. Python interpreter thinks that that is a object. So now for an object we have to first take a material, and then we have to take a shape or a design, then we can mix those and we can make this object. So how can you create some function? Let's think that in real we have an object that we create keyboard. So if you want to create a virtual keyboard, for that you have to need a design also and a object and material and make a object from those. So for that the design will be called as class in Python, and the object, the material, will be taken as a variable. So we take a variable as a matter and we take a design as a class. So what is class? Let's see in programming, and then we can mix those and we can create a virtual keyboard. So let's take an example and let's understand what actually it. So first we have to make a design for that. So let's think that in this example we are going to print name of a car and price of a car and speed of a car, these three things. So for that we have to first make a design. So the design will be called class in Python or in any object oriented programming based language, though it's C++ or any Java, that they are not fully object oriented based, but they are also called as object oriented programming because they supported polymorphism, inheritance, multi-threading, and this is all the basic concept of class or object oriented programming. So let's understand it. So first we have to make a design, and then how can you make a design? By just typing class class, then the name of that design. So you can name it anything, there have no certain rules for that. So we can give the name car, and then you have to give a colon, and then you have to define a construction function. Now what is a construction function? In C++ we call that construction function, in Python we call it init function. So what is it? So let's think that there have three we can write in class. We can write many function, so it is also a type of abstraction. In function video, if you does not watch that video, in up it will flash, click on that, watch that, because without understanding that you can't understand this, so you have to watch that first. And in that video we are telling that function is like a package, like a milk package. We can fill milk in that package. We also fill many statements in a function, and that function is the abstraction of a package. So class is also a type of package. In class we can define many function. We can fill the package of a class, that the package name is class, and in that package we can fill that package by many function. So in class we have write many function, and one main function is called construction function. In construction or in init function, you can call it init, and whenever we working with class we can call function as a method. So method and function is same thing, just a two fancy name. Here we did not get one name and they got two name, but this is just a fancy name, so you don't have to remember many new things. You can call it as a method or as function. So we have also a method, and that is init method, and in init method we can type all those variables that every function is need, each and every. So let's think there have three function, and that three function it needs three variable, and we have to define those three variables in one variable, and that is called a construction function. So how can you write a construction function? Simply first you have to write the def to define a function, and then the function name. So this function is called underscore underscore two underscore, then in then it, then again two underscore, and then a parenthesis. And when you type the parenthesis, automatically this self come. So this self is type of a pointer, it's point any object. Means whenever we create a design, this design also takes this function of this design, that is class, is also takes object as its parameter to save that object or to save that matter to be a object. So we have to take that, and self is stored that object. So in later we can understand more about self. So now let's think that it's a pointer that can store that object, and that can pass that into that function as a parameter. So now you have to write those all variables that you have to use for this class or for this design. So here we use three variable, that is the name of a car and a price and a speed. So let's think that name, price and speed. So now how can you define, how can you assign those variables? So for that you have to first write self, and then the name of that variable. So now first we have to assign the variable of name, then the name of that variable. So like that you have to assign that or define that. So now why we are using self? Because to point. So here in self, the self will be replaced by any object when we create an object. So we can later you can see what actually it happened. So now we have to do same thing for others. So then price and self dot price equals to price. We also have to did for speed. So we can assign all the, or we can define all the variables. Now we have to this. So this function is called construction or init function, because in this function all the variables are stored or assigned. So now we have to create a function as we need based on our work. So here we want to print the name of the car, the price of the car, and the speed of the car. So let's create that. So for that what we want to do is car. So let's print. So here we can don't type print, because if we can type print that will be a function. So we only name that prin. You can name it anything. So it's also taking self, because every function is taking that object that we want to save by those function as a parameter. It takes those object as a parameter, and for that we have to use a pointer, that is self. So we can understand it when we create object really. So now what it wants, so let's think that it's this name we are don't define here, we can define it in this here. So now what is the difference? So you have to erase these lines. When you don't have any variable, you don't have to assign them. So what is the difference between here and here? If you write here any variable and if you write here, so what is the difference between these two place? So whatever the variables you are define here, these all variables are global, means you can use them in every possible function of this class. But if you use some variables in any other function, if you can assign that variable in that function, for that function you can use that function only for that function, not for others. So if there have one more function, you can use price and speed also, because that will be in a construction function, and a construction function can share those variables for any amount of function only for that class. But if you have to use that name, you can't use it because it's only for the print function. So hope you understand what is the difference between these two. So whatever variables you write here, the all the variables are used for any amount of function. But if you write for other function except this function, if you write those variables, that will be used for only that function. So now here we have to print what we want to print. So now we can write the print statement. So here what we want to print, first your car in code because it's a string, then plus, we use plus operand. So in previous videos we can use f or format syntax to print in any variable. You can use though that, but we can use also here another type of syntax that will plus, then the variable name, then plus, and there have no quote in the variable. So that will also a type of syntax to type any variables in middle of any line. So here we can first your name, then the name of that car, then your speed, then the speed of your car. So now whenever you use any variables that will assign in this function, you can use as it is. But when you have to use the variables of this init function or construction function, you have to join the self first. So after self dot, you have to write the variable name. So whenever you use any construction variable, you have to use like that. Before you before the variable, you have to write self dot, and then the price we have to also use self dot, and we have to print that. So now we can create two function, and this function will give you the name of a car and the function price and the speed. So for that we have to also take three variables. So let's think that the name of the car will Ferrari. So a Ferrari, maybe the world expensive car, I think so. Even I don't know the spelling of Ferrari because it's too expensive and the word is also expensive, so I did not know this. So then what we want to do, then the price. So what will be price of that car? I don't know really. So let's make a guess. 2 lakhs or 4 lakhs? I don't know. So let's think that 4 lakhs. What do you think? Is it 4 lakh? So let's think that it's 4 lakh. We are not buying this car, so we don't have to know the real price. So now what we want to do is speed. So we also don't know the speed, and this is the world best car. I think that then the speed will also be the best speed. I don't know about much about cars, so let's make a guess. 100 mile. I don't know really. I just making a guess. Let me know in the comment section, okay, what is the speed of Ferrari and what is the price of Ferrari. If you know that, let me know in the comment section. So now we can write those three variables. What we want to do more is, so now we have to create the object. For that we can create a design. Now we can create object, and we have to use those design, and we have to give the shape to that object to be object, not to the object, to a matter, to a material that will not have any particular shape, and we have to use that design to give that shape. So now so what is a matter in programming? So the matter will be not plastic, because plastic in reality, in real world, here we can use variable. So variable as a matter. So anything, any object you have to make, you have to use variable, and any name you can use anything. There have no certain rules for that. So now what we want to do is, we have to use a design. How can you use that? So first you have to call the design, and the design will be car, and then two parentheses, and whatever this init function is need, you have to pass those. So except the self is something, this point I have to understand it later in down. Let's first, we have to give all the variables name that he need in init function, not in other function. If you don't have to give the name, you only have to give the price and the speed, because whatever the init function have assigned all those variables, you have to give all those names. So if you does not watch my previous videos on function, so you does not understand actually what actually happening here. So you have to watch that and understand that, and then come to these videos, because that is very important for that. So you have to watch that first. So in up you can see a flash, so you have to click on that and you can watch that first, and then we have to give the variables name that init have. So init have two variables, and that will be price and then the speed. So we already assigned the values of those variables, and we can just pass it. Now this object is getting a shape. So now what we want to do, so in another term we can also tell that class is also type of a package, is also a level of abstraction. So what is the level of abstraction, I can already told in function video, we have to watch that. So in function we can see that function is type of a package. Like in milk package, we can fill the package by milk. Same thing in programming, in function we can fill the function with many statement, and also same thing will be applicable for the class. Class is also a type of package. In the package we can fill many function. So hope you understand the concept. So now you have to type the object name and then a dot, and then which function you have to execute it. So first we have to give the shape to the matter as a to be a object. So now we have to call that function that you want to be executed for that object. So first we have to give the name of that object, then a dot, then that function. So you want to print all the details of a car, and that will be here in this print function. So we have to call this print function. So you have to also call the class and also the function that you need. If you only call the class, that function will not execute it. You have to call that specific function that you want to execute it. So we executed print function, so we have to call print, and you have to pass those parameters that that function is taken. So it need only one parameter, and that will be name. You have to give the name in between those parentheses. So now this, what is the work of this self? So now here this self is not directly you have to give in. This Python interpreter is automatically taken, stored the c1 value when we call c1 value into a self, and it also passed as a parameter of every function, and it will give the shape to that matter to be an object. So hope you understand that this function or that class, every function is need that object to give that shape to that matter to be an object, and for that we have to pass that, and it automatically passed by self will store that value, and it will automatically give that to that function. You don't have to define that by yourself. So now let's think, we can create one object. Okay, so let's click on run, let's see what happened. So now you can get you. So here it's not you, sorry, it's your car. So it's your car, so it's your car name. So let's click on run once again. So this is, we got your car name Ferrari, and speed is 100 mile per hour. Even I don't know what is the price or speed, and the price is 4 lakh. So now what we want to do is, this is a design of a car. Okay, so we can make many more cars. So if you have a design, then you can make many objects by that, not only one, any amount of objects. So let's think that we want to create one more object by that, and same thing we have to do, that you have to first call the class, and then you have to give all the variables that the init function have, not the class function, the init function. So now here we have two thing in init function, that will be speed, and now you have to change the price and speed for the second object, because whatever the first object have, the second object is have different, not the same thing. If the same thing, you don't have to change, but if that is different, then you have to change. How can you change? By giving the object for which object you want to change. First you have to type the name of that object, then a dot, and then the variable that you want to change. So first we have to change price. So let's price, and what will be the price? Let's think that the price will be 4 lakh. We have to give quotation because that will be a string. Then we have to change also the speed for c2 object, not for c1. c1 is same as we are already assigned. So now what is the speed? So let's change the speed in 200 mile per hour. Now what we want to do, so if you click on run, it not executed because we do not called the this print function, because we also call the print function for object 2 because we want to execute that line. So we don't want to change the name because name will be same. Let's think that. So we don't, if you want to change the name, you can also do the same thing, c2.name and then the value of that name, but we don't have to change. So let's see what happened by clicking on run. So when we click on run, the two line or two car will be made by this program. So we can create two car or you can tell the details of that car. So first details is the name of that car is Ferrari and 100 miles per hour and 4 lakh price. And then we have for the second car or the for second object, you can call the object, and that will be car name Ferrari. Name will be same because we do not change the name. And then speed we can change to 200, and then we also change the price to 5 lakh. So hope you understand how can you change any variable from a class and what actually is a class and what actually is a self. Self is a pointer. So now what self is doing, so whenever you call c1, the self is stored that c1 and it pass to every function as a parameter to save that object or to save that matter to be a object. And whenever call you c2, it now it will erase the c1 and it will store the c2 and it will again pass that to every function as a parameter, and it will also giving the shape to that matter as a object. And then we want to change, so we can change. And so hope you understand what is the work of self. Self is the instance variable, you can call it as an instant variable. It can save those objects that we want to give shape, and it will pass as a parameter of every function, and that will give us the shape to that matter. So this will be the basic concept of class. What is actually class, what is actually self, and what actually did. So it's like a package. It can store all the function and it will create a design, and we can create object by those design, and we can give the shape and we can print those as usual. So now what we can do more, so there have many concepts, so like polymorphism, multi-threading, inheritance, and operator overloading, duck typing, and many other things. So there are many lots of concept because, but we don't have to know all this concept because we have to only know some basic concept like inheritance and multi-threading, all this, and not others, because we already know the others. We do not know the name of that specific thing we can do. So we in previous videos we can learn more many things, and we can don't know all the name of that things that we do. So the name will be the concept of oops. So in oops we can do many concept that duck typing or operator overloading, and that will already learn, only the name will not know. So we don't have to know all the things, we don't learn that, we only learn that will need it, that we want to understand really. So this will be in this video, we are not learning more because there are many concepts. So that's it, we don't have to learn more about things. So there are many useful things like multi-threading or inheritance. So if you want to know more about oops concept or classes, then please comment in below, and I can make another tutorial, because this season will be end in this video, and then in next video we can learn a module that is called Pygame, and that is used for developing game. So from the next videos we can learn how can you create games, how can you develop 2D games or 3D games by Pygame. So what is module, you if you does not know, in link in the description you can check, we already have a video about what is module. So we can use Pygame, we can import that module, and we can develop games, snake game, car race game, many interesting game. And before going to started gaming tutorials, if you want to know more about classes and basic concept of inheritance or basic concept of multi-threading, then please comment in below, and I can make another tutorial about all of this basic concept, and then I can started the Pygame tutorial. So let's see in the next video. Bye bye.